Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to model the Quality Sweater Company, and we're going to learn some new Excel skills, some slightly advanced techniques, and we're going to go through and answer these problems 1 to 4 that you see on the screen. If you haven't done so already, please pause the video and give the question a read. Again, imagine you're the consultant, and imagine first thing you ask yourself is, how does this company make money? How does it spend its money? And then again, the difference there will be the profit. So read the question, pause the video before we begin. All right, ready? Here we go. Start off with a header. We'll put it up in A1. We can create a cell styles and give it heading 1. And then once again, what you like to do is sort of in the beginning is go through and think about the givens, think about the inputs from the problem. Let's take the numbers out of the paragraph, put them in the spreadsheet, clearly label them, clearly format. And remember that the order they appear in the question may or may not be the way that we want them to appear in the spreadsheet, but let's go through it in order and we'll move things around later as needed. All right, here we go. The Quality Sweaters company sells hand-knitted sweaters. Adorable. The company is planning to print a catalog of its products and undertake a direct mail campaign. All right, so I'm going to print a catalog and try to get a mailing response. Now, the cost of printing the catalog is $20,000. So right away, we're talking about costs, and we have a fixed cost, a fixed printing cost, $20,000. We're going to enter 20000, and we will format that in a minute. We're not going to add the dollar signs in. Let's just format it to accounting, and we'll kill the pennies since we don't need to see the pennies for $20,000. So this is my printing cost. This is my fixed costs. Just by engaging the printing company, this is what I have to pay. All right, then becomes some other costs. Now, I have an additional cost, a variable cost, if you will, of printing each catalog, and that is at 10 cents. So I have my fixed cost, and maybe we have our variable cost. Let's label these out. So our variable cost, we have printing. We said this is 10 cents, so let's actually include this. 10 cents, of course, we want to show the pennies. We want to show what this is, and this is per catalog. And then we keep going. The cost of mailing each catalog, including postage, order forms, buying names from a mail order database, is an additional 15 cents. So I have to mail these things. Makes sense? And this would be 15 cents. So let's add that in. And once again, notice I'm putting the units in here per catalog so that I can keep track of what the costs are. So I have 2 variable costs based on the catalogs that I order, that I have printed. Next, in addition, the company plans to include direct reply envelopes in its mailing and incurs an additional 20 cents in extra costs for each direct mail envelopes used by a respondent. Now be careful here. Maybe you've gotten these in the mail or not, where it comes with a pre-stamped envelope and all you have to do is drop it in the mail. I'm only incurring this cost for each direct mail envelope used, for each order that I am receiving. So this is for, what should we call this? Reply envelopes. Went a little long, so we'll expand column A. That's not a problem. And this is not per catalog. Even though I print these, I may not get charged the 20 cents for having this. So first let's update this to 20 cents. This is actually per order. I only get this charge for orders. This is a common mistake here. You got to be very careful. Again, writing the units down will help you see the difference here, but it's 20 cents per order. Let's keep going. The average size of a customer order is 40 bucks. All right, so I need the customer order, average customer order. This is no longer going under my cost. This is actually money I'm making at this point. So this would actually go under revenue. And my revenue, the average would be $40. So let's put that in the books. All right, we're almost at the end of the question. The company's variable costs per order, primarily due to labor, materials costs, etc. This averages about 80% of the order's value, which is $32. I printed all these catalogs. I've mailed them out. I paid for the stamps. Then I sit back and wait. And then some come back. And when they come back, it costs me 20 cents for shipping, for creating and shipping those reply envelopes. And then I actually have to fill the order. Now, the orders will be all over the place, but on average, they're about 40 bucks each. Okay, it's just an average. And once they come in, I still have to fill the order. And it says the company's variable cost per order. So they're kind of helping you out here with this question to do this. So like labor and materials. Again, this is a variable cost. So I'll put it under my variable. I have 4 variable costs here. You might even imagine there could be more if this were an actual business problem in a real company, for a real company. And it's kind of nice. They actually do the math for you. It's 80% of the order's value, which is $32. So they're doing it for you. you can imagine you might have to do it yourself. The 80% doesn't actually appear anywhere in the problem. It's used to compute the 32, so do be careful just because the number appears. Smart about how you include it. And once again, I'm going to very clearly label this as per order versus per catalog printed. That will help me keep track of my totals. All right, last but not least, the company plans to mail 100,000 catalogs. So what am I going to order here? This is going to go into my cost. So catalogs ordered. This is me sending them out the door. We said this is going to be 100,000. This is not money. It's just the number of catalogs. And I want to develop a spreadsheet to model and answer the following questions. All right, so think about this. I'm ordering 100,000 catalogs just to engage the printing. Company is 20 grand, and I have all these variable costs per catalog. And if they come back, usually about $40 on average, I have some additional variable costs. I look at the first question, how does a change in the response rate affect profit? And so you realize very quickly, you don't have an actual response rate to sell. So one thing we should probably put in here is a response rate. And this is going to be the thing we play with. This is going to be the thing that we change. So again, I like to color these cells green. Green means go. Green means play with these cells. There's no bad guess here initially. The one thing I would say here is do not leave this blank. I want to make sure the spreadsheet's working. So I'm going to completely make up a number. Sometimes they call this a dummy value, where you're just plugging in a number for the sake of it. You're just plugging in a number. Let's use 1 decimal point to show this, but I'm going to make up a response rate of 5%. And once you send out 1,000, and once you send out 100,000 catalogs, and you can estimate your response rate, you can then compute, now responses mean orders, your order number, your total orders. This is going to be a formula. I want 5% of 100,000. Of course, that means multiply. So I'm going to send out 100,000 catalogs. I'm assuming a response rate of 5%, and that means that 5,000 catalogs orders come back. I have an average order of 40,000, and now I can actually start to compute my total revenue. So my total revenue is going to be the number of orders that I receive times 40,000. And so this company makes $200,000 in revenue. Careful, let me use the formula text to just show where this formula is coming from. So I have some dummy values, I have some formulas that are being computed here. Now remember, this isn't 200,000 to the bank. This is just the orders received are 200,000. I still have to process the order, and I also haven't computed yet my total costs. So let's start doing that as well. Where should I put this? I guess maybe it doesn't matter. You can already tell I'm running out of room, so I might want to slide some things down, and this is the beauty of Excel. If you need some room, go off and get it. Let's compute our total cost. And so what's that going to be? So remember, I have my fixed cost of just engaging with the printing company, and then I have, so I have to add here, 10 cents plus 15 cents per catalog ordered. I'm ordering 100,000 catalogs. So we add that up. And then, don't forget, I also have variable costs of 20 cents plus $32 for every single order. And now this is where it's nice. I've computed the total order. This formula is getting a little messy, but hopefully you can see where each piece comes from. I might, again, just depending on interest and time, I might want to break this up into maybe my total fixed cost, my total variable cost per catalog. Take this formula and break it up into 3 lines. But hopefully you're okay with me. You can see where everything comes from. Again, I have my fixed cost from printing. I have to add 10 to 15, that's 25 cents per catalog times B14. And then I have to take my 20 cents and $32 to actually process the order. But then again, that is per order. So writing the units down really does help me figure out what the right answer is and keep track of everything here. And now we have it. We have our total cost of $206,000. We have our total revenue of $2,000. You can always see where this is going. I'll pull all this up so I can fit it all on the screen. And let me show the formula for my total cost. That's a good one. Slide this over. So then last but not least, of course, the number that we're actually after is our total profit. And this is what I look for in a spreadsheet. I'm always looking to see how the profit's calculated. A good spreadsheet will always have a very simple formula in the profit. It is, of course, the revenue minus your total cost. And in this case, oh boy, we're losing $6,000 with these numbers here. Okay, so this is where we get to play. And the first question says, how does a change in the response rate affect profit? So if I get a little more, let's say I had 10% return. That seems ridiculously high, but let's just go with it for a second. Well, that's not too bad. Maybe, now I'm running a profit. I'm making $33,000. If I had somewhere in the middle, perhaps 8%, I'm still making money. So there's some point when I go from losing money to making money. And I'd really love to see when and where that happens. So let me slide the question over to make some room on my spreadsheet here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make something called a data table. And this is the skill that I want you guys to have here. This is a data table. This is a feature in Excel where you can play around with these numbers and you can go through and sort of let Excel create the table for you and get these values for you. So really, I don't know. I'm going to use, there's a number coming later of 3% in the question. I'm going to use that as sort of my first value. So what do I want to know? I want to know my response rate, and I'm going to start at that 3%. And then I get to pick what I want to show. So let's just increase by 5% each time. I'm creating a table for different response rates. I'm trying to answer the first one. How does a change in the response rate affect the profit? So I'm making up these X values, and I'm going to pick the first two and then drag it down, and I'll stop at, for no good reason, 8%. So these numbers here, I get to pick. One thing you get to do is you can draw on your spreadsheet, and I'm going to say you pick these. You pick these values. They can be whatever you want. You want to start at 2? Great. You want to go up to 9? Great. You want to break it up into quarters, so you see 3.25, 3.5, do whatever you want. Sometimes it tells you, sometimes it doesn't. Use your best judgment. It's probably not realistic or very useful to talk about a mailing catalog and go all the way up to like 50%. If you're like me and you get a lot of these things in the mail, they often get thrown out or recycled pretty darn quickly. But you pick the rates that you want to see. All right, and then we're going to look at, of course, we're after a change in the response rate and how does it affect the profit, and we're going to look at the profit. Now, here's what we could do, and just appreciate this. This is going to be sort of painful by hand, but I'll show you how to do it in Excel. I could type into our green cell, a response rate cell, 3%. I take the value, it's like negative 21, so I do negative 21600, and then I can format this thing to accounting, and we're all set. But you can't drag it down, right? This is me just typing in, there's no formula here. I would have to then come over to the cell and do 3.5% and then list this down and go, okay, negative 17,770. And like this would be a pain in the butt. This isn't the world's longest table, but you can imagine just listing every single value and then typing in the profit for the Y value to go ahead and make a chart. It's going to be pretty bad. So what I want to do, first and foremost, let's get the formatting down and then I'll clear the values. I really would like Excel to fill this in. And this is exactly what the feature of a data table does. There's one little quirk to it, and that is I got to slide up the label for profit, and I have to tell Excel where on my model this cell, the profit cell, actually is. So this, I call the cell like a ghost cell. We don't use it. It's not actually for us, for Excel to figure out where the profit is, where I'm going to populate the Y value. So I will tell Excel that, hey, my Y values, the second column in my model is coming from B20. Again, I don't use this number. This is strictly for Excel. It's a little quirky, but we're going to use it. And because I sort of treat it as like it's not really there, I often put it in gray and I kind of hide it. I'll make it a little darker than what I'm used to. I usually hide it pretty well, but hopefully you guys can see that I've made it gray. And this is a number that I'm not going to use, but Excel's going to use it. This formula is saying grab B20 from the table. All right, here we go. Ready? Let me move this up as well, just so we have it. You don't need anything on this one. All right, so you highlight the entire table, including this ghost row, this grayed out link to the profit cell in the model. Highlight everything, and here's the feature of a data table of Excel. I've seen people who are very, very good at Excel and not know how to do this. So this is a really nice skill to have. Head over to the data tab and find the what if analysis. You'll see 3 options, and one of them is called data table. Select data table. We're going to make a lot of these, so we'll get very good at this. And for this type of 2-column data table, we'll create more complicated ones in a little bit, but for this type of data table, it's asking, what it's waiting for us to tell it is, hey, where is the column input? I want to fill in the second column, so I'm going to leave the first row blank. I'm really going to fill this in as saying, okay, I'll put in for each X value, and I'll grab the profit that you told me up here in this ghost formula, but like, where am I putting in the response rates? Where are the inputs going? Because it obviously doesn't know how to read and it can't, figure out your model. So you just have to help it and say, where are the response rates going to get put into? And this is where we click our green highlighted cell over in B14. And again, what we're saying is take all the possible X values, work your way down the table, plug it into B14, plug it into our green cell, and then and it's a profit, it's going to update, and that'll appear right here. and then just copy and paste it, please, into each table. This is how this works. Pause video here and play around with it. Make sure you understand how this works. It's very nice because once you hit OK, boom, we get the entire table filled out. Again, appreciate how quickly that happened. And if I had to do this by hand, you can imagine there could be errors for me just copying things incorrectly or going through it, but you filled out the entire table. So if you missed that, go back and watch the video to see that one more time. Maybe I'll kill the pennies. And again, we have a beautiful table here. I'm going to highlight the values. Unfortunately, I don't want to move or mess around with this ghost cell, so I'm just going to highlight the values. I don't highlight the gray cell. That's not really for me. That was for Excel. That was for the data table. Once I have the values, I'll go in and I will create a recommended chart. There's lots of good options here. For no good reason, I'll pick the first one. You can pick another one if you so wish, and I'll put it. Where can I put it? Running out of room here. I'll put it over here for now. And I would update this accordingly. And I want to update this as better title, or really anything better than chart title. So quality sweater company. And we'll do response rate versus profit. And we'll hit enter. And we can play around with this so it appears on one line or move this thing over as we need. But for now, it's fine. Here, what's a good shortcut here? Instead of company, I'll just call it company like that. I'll abbreviate company. Great, now it all fits. And you can play around with trying to get these things to show a little better. But the point is, I lose money for a while if my response rate isn't a certain amount. And then once I pass this threshold, looks like somewhere between 5.5 and 6, then this company actually starts to turn a profit. So I have both the table and the graph. And I think with both of these combined, I've answered question 1 in full. How does a change in the response rate affect the profit? So there's the first one. Just to skip ahead to number 3 for a second, if the company estimates a response rate of 3%, should it proceed with the mailing? Well, let's see, 3% is back here. We're going to lose a lot of money. We're going to lose $21,600 with this 3% response rate. So if that's the expectation, our advice as the consultants here would be to not go ahead with this business. Do not go ahead with the printing. So we can answer actually 1 and 3 from the graph. Let's look at number 2 for a second. For what response rate does the company break even? Breaking even means that our profit is 0. We know from this sort of analysis that it's between 5.5 and 6. I'd like to do a little better. I'd like to do a little better and find the actual break-even point. Now, again, we could do this by hand. Say, okay, is it 5.6? No. Is it 5.7? Again, I'm looking for when profit is 0. No. Is it 5.8? Right? And you can tell this is kind of awful and annoying, and we could be here for a while. Is it 5.9? No, right? Like, which way do you go? Is it 5.91? Is it 5.92? That sounds awful. So what I'm going to do is use another feature of Excel where you can have Excel play this guessing game, too hot or too cold for you. And that's called Goal Seek. So once again, highlight the response rate, the thing that you want to play with, and let's let Excel do all the hard work. Ready? Data, what if analysis, Goal Seek. Goal Seek is another box that pops up asking for some inputs, but now it asks for 3 things. It says, what do I want to set? What cell are you looking to fix? Whenever you have break even, we're setting the profit to the value of 0. You can imagine, you can pick anything you want, any cell you want, but for break even in particular, profit gets sent to 0. And it says, great, I'll go do that, but you have to tell me what cell I'm allowed to change. And here we're going to change our response rate. So you plug in these 3 pieces and hit OK when you are ready. And Excel will do that guessing game of going a little too high, a little too low. But of course, it all happens instantaneously. It'll tell you when it found a solution. You say OK, thank you very much. Click OK, it goes away. And there it is. And it looks like it's 5.8. You're like, well, maybe I would have found 5.8. But if you remember, when we plugged in 5.8 exactly, we didn't get 0. If you look up in the formula bar, you can see Excel really did a good job. It found that it's 5.76923. It found more decimals than you'd ever find. And the odds of you coming up with this percentage, which makes the profit actually 0, is, slim to none. So you can decide how many decimals you want to show. Usually 1 or 2 is more than enough for any percentage. So 5.77%, or if you want to get fancy, give the whole thing. But 5.8, 5.77% is the response rate that the company breaks even. This is our minimum sort of thing where we, make the same amount of money as we did if we didn't even open the store. So this is the number to beat in our response rate to actually turn a profit. So we've seen data tables, which turned into nice graphs, which I'm moving around here. And we've also seen goal seek. These are two important tools that we want in Excel. Last but not least, this is a little bit of an open-ended question. How does the presence of uncertainty affect the usefulness of a model? Just because we have a working spreadsheet doesn't mean it's entirely accurate. I'll leave this sort of as a little thought one for you guys to linger on, but which one of these change? How trustworthy are you of this model? What would it take if you were the client, if I was presenting this to you, for you to sort of go all in and make sure that you spend enough money, perhaps on advertising or marketing, to make sure you get past 5.77% to actually turn a profit? All right. Lots of new things with this one. I like this example a lot. Go over this one once or twice more. Make sure you can build this from scratch and understand how data tables work and how goal seek works. Those are our two new objectives in this video. Great job on this video. We'll see you next time.